All signs point to this, as a new report has revealed some insight into Chris Kreider's future with the New York Rangers. And we also have another report that has revealed what the Rangers organization is planning to do with the direction of this team. And this could have serious implications on the roster and the organization moving forward. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your New York Rangers, it's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you hit that subscribe button, again, you get to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the Rangers. But the first order of business today is Chris Kreider and his future with the team. It's looking less and less likely that he will return next season, which is pretty crazy. Let's get right into it. There's been a couple articles. There's been a few reports. Let's break it down. And this is from the New York Post. And 13 years after strolling off the Chestnut Hill campus onto Broadway as a 19-year-old, as we all remember in the 2012 playoffs, off of his second NCAA championship, sands have run through the hourglass, and these are the last days of Chris Kreider as a New York Ranger. Now, let's just take this in for just a second, right? Chris Kreider is the longest tenured New York Ranger right now, and I think fans really love this player. And I think the relationship between him and Peter Laviolette has soured, and I think that has a lot to do with his performance so far this year. And I say so far, the season's done, his performance this season. So, I think that has a lot to do with his poor play, his poor effort this year. But I think at the end of the day, this is a player who's dealing with some back injuries. He has, some history of injuries as well, although he's been very consistent and a great goal scorer for the New York Rangers. He makes $6.5 million. Maybe it's time to start looking at moving off of this player to bring in a new era of Rangers hockey, and obviously a younger era, because we've seen guys like Brendan Othmann, have some, playing time finally. We've seen Brett Berard play some great minutes in the NHL, and now most recently Gabe Pro, although he's sitting in the press box, but we'll get to that in a bit. But if you go further in this article, the truth is that Chris Kreider could have come out as a healthy scratch without anyone particularly noticing the effects of number 20's absence on the ice, and without anyone in the gallery second guessing head coach Peter Laviolette's decision. That's kind of the season that it's been for Chris Kreider, and honestly Peter Laviolette at this point, because he is continuing to scratch younger guys who actually give effort and give that, have a high compete level in favor of guys who've been terrible all season. So Chris Kreider has not had a good season. We can take a look at his stats so far this season. Again, he's getting up there in age. He's going to be 34, right? So he's going into his 35-year-old season. He only has 5 assists the entire season. Again, his game is more goal scoring, but in 65 games this season, he has 26 points. He only has 21 goals on the year. This is not the Chris Kreider that we know. Again, we know a Chris Kreider that definitely puts up more goals than assists. We know that Chris Kreider. We've seen him before, but not the 21-goal Chris Kreider and only 26 points in 65 games. He's had a bad season. It is what it is. He's also a -8. He's not playing that much, although he is still averaging 17 minutes on ice, and he's been dealing with a back injury all season, or what we presume is a back injury. It's one of the worst kept secrets in the entire history of this club. But this is a portion of the season where we should be counting. I love this part of the article, by the way, where we should be counting up Kreider's career accomplishments on his way to a franchise record 26th postseason series. This is the portion where we should be celebrating the club's most senior player, who straddled the tenures of Henrik Lundqvist and Igor Shesterkin. We should be doing that, but instead, we're talking about how much of a mess not only the team is, the organization at this point is, with Chris Kreider. Maybe not at the forefront of it, but definitely a healthy piece of it. And again, he hasn't been good this season, and he hasn't been deployed properly. There's just so much going on this season that has been tough to watch. And I thought this was interesting, from Brooksy as well. He's saying that it's hard to watch Chris Kreider to play now. There's just been a mutual alienation of affection, and I don't know why. It's clear that he needs a fresh start, and I don't know if it's a fresh start away from the team, although I do think that the team could offload his $6.5 million. And I don't want to say that cold-heartedly. I love Chris Kreider, and I think Rangers fans, when the day finally comes that it's official and he's no longer a New York Ranger, is going to be a sad day for a lot of fans, right? But there is an alienation there. Like, he looks weird this year. Like, he looks like he just doesn't want to be there. I wonder if it's Peter Laviolette. We'll get to that in a second as well. So I wonder if Peter Laviolette, by all accounts, is getting fired at the end of next week when the season ends, right? I wonder if that's the fresh start. You bring in a new coach, maybe he's feeling good about himself again, and maybe he'll have a better season next year when he, is feeling better. We don't know if this injury is going to linger, but, there could be two sides to it is what I'm trying to say. Maybe a fresh start with a new coach with the same team, or maybe it's a fresh start somewhere else. It depends what the Rangers want to do, especially with the cap situation this summer. And when you look at a game like last night, where you win 9-2 over the New York Islanders, Chris Kreider, in terms of impact, near the bottom again. He's not making any type of impact this season. He hasn't been good. Somehow he continues to get into the lineup over guys like Brett Berard, over guys like Brendan Othman, over guys like Gabe Perreault. It makes no sense to me. Again, last night, it's very hard to be a negative impact player, but he's near the bottom, right? And it's not that he didn't have a good game, but in games even like this, he's not near the top. He's not having that much of a positive impact. Now, this is from, a lot of the fan base is echoing this as well. What I'm fully expecting from Dolan this offseason, keep Chris Drury. We know that that's probably going to happen. Although it's still on the fence, we know that that is the most likely outcome. Chris Drury's not going anywhere. Now, the other one is fire Peter Laviolette and hire John Tortorella. Pump the brakes on that. We'll get to that in a different video about John Tortorella. I don't think John Tortorella is the answer for this team either, but a lot of people seem to believe that. But anyway, Peter Laviolette is so gone. He's going to be fired at the end of next week when the season ends. And the last thing would be to trade Chris Kreider and K'Andre Miller. And I think that's interesting with K'Andre Miller. They hold his rights still. He wants a significant raise. He hasn't earned it. So maybe you trade both of them, free up that salary cap space. You weaponize that salary cap space to go out and get somebody else. Now, in my opinion, this is from Snark Messier, and this is off of the same quote that we just went off of from Larry Brooks as well. In my opinion, I feel as if Chris Kreider doesn't like or respect Peter Laviolette whatsoever. You can kind of see that, right? As the season's gone on, it's looked like Chris Kreider's like, I am super checked out of this season because of the coach. Or we don't know for sure, but it just looks like even in practice, I broke it down a couple weeks ago. There is a video, it could have been a month ago at this point, where we're breaking down a video from practice and Chris Kreider is talking to Laviolette, or Laviolette, I should say, is talking to Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider gives him a look and skates away, right? And I was like, it could be nothing. It's probably nothing. Players do that all the time. But it looks like Chris Kreider was saying, I have no time for you. I have no idea what you're trying to tell me or the rest of this team. And we've seen it time and time again the last couple weeks. Laviolette saying that there's no problem with the structure of this team. That's not the issue. It's compete level, which it is. But I do think that there is a problem with the structure of this team because you have players coming out and saying, I have no idea what we're doing out there. I have no idea what the game plan is. So that is a coaching issue that needs to be fixed. And this is from Joe. I wrote this in my notes this morning, but we were literally watching the final games in a Rangers uniform for Chris Kreider, who is a legacy player in this organization, and things are so damn bad that we aren't even able to appreciate it. That's the thing, right? This looks like it's the end for Chris Kreider as a Ranger, and it's coming to an end. And he was a great player, a legacy player, longest tenured player right now. And again, franchise record for playoff series, all of that good stuff. He's put in amazing work. He's been a goal scorer for this team. It sucks that we're not able to enjoy his final, go at it as a Ranger. And again, we don't know what's going to happen. He could always come back to the New York Rangers, right? Fresh start, new coach. We don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's very likely at this point he doesn't return. And Larry Brooks, again, last thing we'll wrap up here. And this is from Vince Mercogliano's article as well about, scratching Gabe Perreault, which we've talked about in videos ad nauseum at this point. Absolutely horrendous idea. Makes no sense. The truth is that Chris Kreider could have come out as a healthy scratch without anyone noticing the effects. And that's kind of what we're seeing so far this year in Laviolette. It's just an awful mix of everything so far this year. So let me know your thoughts on Peter Laviolette. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about Chris Kreider and if he returns as a New York Ranger. I'm thinking it's probably unlikely at this point, but I think, a fresh start does mean a new coach at some points too. So could go either way, I think, at this point, although I think it's more likely that this is it for Chris Kreider as a New York Ranger, and that is sad. But that's by all reports from Larry Brooks, a couple others, Vince Mercogliano, of course, always on the scene there, Phil Kosher on Twitter as well. But let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you get to stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.